guitar, and slowly you realise they're all just sitting around waiting for that bloody lead guitar. He's obviously got a taxi. They've dropped him off 3 blocks, and you can almost hear him coming up through the distance, and he comes in, and then it opens up back into the chorus again. I thought it was really funny, actually. Hey, everybody, peeps, and welcome to another episode of Audiophiles. Good afternoon. My name's John. His name is Andy. You need to be yourself. You can't be no one else. I know a girl called Elsa. She's into Alka-Seltzer. She sniffs it through a cane on a supersonic train, and she makes me laugh. I got her autograph. More on that another time. But first, we're down to the serious business to listen to music. Andy, your turn to serve it up. What have you got for us?
Well, I've got a band that I think Greg had you check out at least once on Into the Music. You checked out a track by them called Sour Girl. The band is Stone Temple Pilots.
Ah, yes.
Yes. Okay. So, I'd like you to check out another track by them, one called Big Empty. Okay. I'm assuming
Just
you
down
don't
the
have
coast
much.
from Big Sur.
Yeah, I'm assuming you don't have much familiarity with them outside of Sour Girl.
Yeah, and even then, that's a distant memory kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, Stone Temple Pilots obviously heard of. I have to say, probably fairly quickly dismissed in my reckoning back in the 90s for various reasons,
Okay.
um, without probably hearing much of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's a chance to revisit them and maybe reassess your opinion of them. I'll leave that
Mhm.
completely up to you, but I would like to know what you've made of this song. So please go off, check it out, come back, and let me know.
Will do. This is not the beginning I expected. A couple of things. The thumbnail reminds me just of The Cure, Japanese Whispers, straight away. Which is bizarre. I wasn't thinking I was going to say that. And also, this start is really interesting. This sort of slide guitar, and it has that effect. It's almost like the guitar version of a mute trumpet. There's a lovely tone to it, lovely. And you've got this really jazzy rhythm section behind it. There's a lot of sort of swing to it. It's really, really intriguing. See how it goes.
Driving faster in my car.
That's interesting. Let me just pull that back a little bit.
Driving faster in my car. Falling farther from just what we are. Smoke a cigarette and lie some more. These conversations kill. Falling faster in my car. Time to take her home again.
We'll go back to this. Oh my god. Yeah, when he started singing, he's got a lovely breathy tone to his voice. And when he started singing that first line, driving fast in your car, I think it was, I immediately, for some reason, it's the feel rather than the sound, but I just thought of Badge by Cream. Of course, that has George Harrison playing on that as well, and it has a kind of George Harrison sound to that guitar. Interesting, interesting. And then we get firmly big old timestamp, early 90s. I mean, it's not Phil Collins, but hitting those loose toms, and then in comes crashing the loud to the verse quiet. Yeah. Okay. And his voice changed there. Let's just go back a wee bit.
Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is contemplated. Time to take her ride. It leaves today. No conversation. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is contemplated. Time to wait too long. To wait too long. To wait too long.
Good. We're back to the verse bit. Okay. Yeah. Really not my cup of tea. His voice is that certain tone from early stroke mid 90s. I just don't like it. I mean, instantly, I'm trying to put down my sort of misgivings, but nah, no, it grates. It's like the Jam and all that bullshit. The so-called grunge. Yeah, it didn't really cut it with me. It just sounds like mainstream rock with a bit of distortion and everyone's singing the same. That voice, and he was saying time. Yeah, I just find it annoying. It's obviously a thing I have. Not his fault or their fault, but yeah, it doesn't hit with me. But we're back into the verse now, and I like that. So let's see how it goes. It's lovely.
Too much walking, shoes worn thin.
Sorry, the contrast between the two voices, it is the same guy, it must be, are just so stark. I mean, this is lovely. It's got a bit of feel to it and touch. It is delicate, but there's something else there. And then this sort of beige growl. Yeah.
Too much tripping and my soul's worn thin. Time to catch a ride, it leaves today. Her name is what it means. Too much walking, shoe worn thin. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is contemplated. Time to take her ride. It leaves today. No conversation. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is contemplated. Time to wait too long. To wait too long. To wait too long. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. Conversations kill.
That's interesting there. I don't want to really listen to it. There's an interesting phrase, conversations kill. I'm not sure what he's meaning by that, whether he's talking about um, internal monologues, perhaps, or I don't know. Perhaps he's undercover DA. agent. I doubt it. But it was interesting how at the end of that chorus, before we went into the conversation, and he sang 3 times, which is the sort of transition in is like dun 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 dun. Dun. It's quite so we're sort of shuffling on the spot in terms of changing the pace, and did it again here. Yeah, interesting. Let me just leave it. He's coming from the bus station, running up the road, with a guitar.
Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is contemplated. Time to take her ride and leave today. No conversation. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is contemplated. Time to wait too long. To wait too long. To wait too long. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. Conversations kill.
Interesting. I think, as is the phrase, game of two halves, Brian. Really liked the verse parts. I thought it was lovely tones to that guitar, and his voice had a lot to it, which I really liked. And that sort of breathiness with that sort of jazzy rhythm section was lovely. I did like that sort of break where they just vamped for a bit, and there's some nice touch of the bass was going up a bit, and there's a nice touch from the percussion, the drummer, and then this lead, and there was guitar picking, and then the lead guitar. It sounded like he was hoofing it down the road, coming closer and closer and closer, and then bang, big chorus. But yeah, the tone and sound of the chorus is the sort of thing I really did like in the 90s. And yeah, this had it in spades. I'm sure it was wildly popular and people loved it, but not for me. Right, we'll have to find out a bit more about this, and going to do so by going back and chopped it up with Andy.
All right, welcome back. Glad to see you arrived in one piece. So, what's your assessment of Big Empty by STP?
Okay, so I will say, well, I've said this quite recently, Game of Two Halves, Brian. So it starts with this lovely slide guitar and this kind of jazzy kind of rhythm section. There's definitely some swing to the drums.
Yes,
It's
the
lovely.
drums.
And I wasn't expecting this, Mr. Bond. And then in comes Iman singing. And his first line, he sings driving faster in my car or something. And for some reason, just then, because of the whole atmosphere, Badge by Cream just popped straight into my head. I know it's not the same, it doesn't sound the same, but it's the same feel, that sort of, thinking about the time. It's that same sort of first line sort of feel to a song. And that's what, and I think perhaps it's a George Harrison thing as well, which I'll get into later. But anyway, so also, very briefly, so I'm like barely looking at it when it came up. The thumbnail straight away made me think of Japanese Whispers by The Cure. Again, it doesn't even look anything like the album cover, but it just made me think of it. So there you go. There's some weird thoughts going on straight away. So we start our first verse. Singer's voice, I have to say, sounds quite breathy. And it creates a intriguing sort of atmosphere to the verse. I really, really liked it. And I was struggling to remember Sour Girl, I remember like Greg gave it to me, and it was apparently it's a really big song. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it didn't sound like what I remember. It sounded kind of middle of the road kind of thing. It didn't sound particularly American garage, sorry, guitar rock, post grunge, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I
Mhm.
just remember it sounding fairly sort of middle of the road, but didn't sound like this from my memory. I'll have to go back and listen to it. But then, so yeah, I'm really enjoying the verse, and his voice just has something to it. It sounds great. And then we suddenly get it just comes in this action that's just timestamps it, early 90s, and that's those loose tom hits. I'll say it's not quite Phil Collins, but it's there,
Mm.
and it ushers in the loud section in the form of chorus, I believe. Now, blame Pearl Jam, but there's a certain vocal tone which, and it's been well documented on this channel, that instantly grates on me. I should say, again, this has been proved on this channel many times, that given the amount of time and distance, everything can be reevaluated. I mean, at the age of 16, I absolutely hated Tom Waits' voice. He's now one of my favorite artists. So I'm trying to sweep aside my prime misgivings and give this a fair shot. It lasts about 8 seconds. I have to say, I still don't like his voice. And actually, the thing that really pissed me off is he lulled me in with this lovely tone of his. I'm presuming it's the same guy. His verse voice, as the contrast is so stark that it makes me like really annoyed at this one, and it makes me for the first, you know, showing of it actually dislike it more than I probably do in reality, just because of that other was so nice. I think one of the problems for me is this. Pearl Jam et al. I'll use them because I probably just like them the most. In my mind, they aren't really what I consider grunge. I'd say Mudhoney is grunge and early Nirvana is grunge. I would say this sort of music, which sort of, you know, came about probably at the same time, just a year or two later, maybe. To my ears, it's more like mainstream American rock music, which has then been window dressed with a bit of distortion, a bit of loud, quiet, etc., etc. Um, and that sort of dynamic that was brought by Nirvana into the mainstream, but obviously championed by Pixies. Had to mention them almost every episode. So yeah, and that's what really sort of did me in about some of these bands. And I lumped in mentally at the time Stone, Temple Pilots with that because it was that sort of movement that was coming across without properly listening to them, I have to say. So fair enough. All that being said, back to the chorus. It does have a nice, quite gentle sort of cigarette lighter waving tempo. And there's this ringing guitar with big open chords. And I actually think he does this, he sings time, doesn't he? And I think if you just that is it's like a certain, selection box of biscuits, and there's that one biscuit you don't like, and it's his tone of his voice when he does that I don't like. If it was a custard cream or a bourbon, I'd be quite happy, but it's some sort of weird ginger jammy thing in the middle. Um, and so the rest of it's absolutely fine. We go back into the verse and that really nice slide guitar, and that sort of making me think George Harrison at this point, which is then making me think Cream again because he played on Badge, blah blah blah, and Clapton and Harrison, and we talked about that before as well. So this is all swelling through my head. And then he sings again, and I really like his delivery in this verse. And again, the contrast really highlights what I don't like. We get another chorus, and in this chorus, I noticed that when they sort of transition a bit, it's almost like a stutter stop. They're doing, doing, and then it goes into a bit section which he repeats three times. Conversations kill, and it's one of the lines I really caught. I thought it's an intriguing gambit. I'm not quite sure what it means. I don't know if he means. I said in reaction, it could be an internal monologue, or it could be that he's an undercover DEA agent. It's probably the former rather than the latter, but who knows? It could be Donnie Brasco for all I know. Um, but it's just really interesting that line actually. I mean, in terms of like sort of standard fare, that's a really interesting lyric. And then it goes into this kind of almost jazzy freeform middle eight or whatever you want to call it. It's not a bridge, I guess, but whatever you want to call it. But it's just really sort of, okay, boys, let's vamp. And you get some nice drum action, you get the bass talking a bit, and you get this picking guitar, and slowly you realize they're all just sitting around waiting for that bloody lead guitar. He's obviously got a taxi. They've dropped him off 3 blocks, and you can almost hear him coming up through the distance, and he comes in, and then it opens up back into the chorus again. I thought it was really funny, actually. And the way it was did it, I mean, I just pictured this guy legging it down the road with his guitar. It was great. Yeah, I really like that bit. And then we go back into the chorus, and again, it's really more big chords. When I say big chords, I mean musically, not clothing. And then we get a few more conversation kills, and we're out. So yeah, I'm a little bit divided on this because it's just really, I found it just annoying because if I hadn't heard that verse bit, I'd have probably accepted the chorus voice. That's the only thing that pissed me off was just his tone and that, that kind of singing. It's a thing I have, I understand, but I'm not going to get any help. I'm not going to get over it. I imagine this being insanely popular, but I think this has a feel of being a mostly USA type sound. I don't see it being that big over here. It could have been. I don't remember. I remember their name being around, but I don't remember them being as big as like Pearl Jam. That fucking pissed me off. So yeah, I would say that bit aside, there's lots of it that I really liked, and I really liked his voice in the verse as well. Really liked it, and it pissed me off even more about the.
Yeah.
But there you go. But there you go.
Excellent. Well,
I have no idea what it's about, but knowing early 90s, I mean, it could be about a woman. It's probably about drugs. I doubt it's about Jesus. It could be about vampires. I've now covered everything.
yes. To more broadly what it's about as I go through the notes here. But thank you so
Cool.
much for giving this a listen, and thank you for your honesty about parts. Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. Like the way he sings the verses is more unique and sounds better to me than the chorus, because as you say, the chorus, though I don't find it as grating as you, it is kind of dime a dozen-y as far as like 90s grunge sounding, like all that stuff is all over American rock music in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Well, it's
unavoidable.
a bit like sort of, I don't know, Morris dancers. Probably you would hate them if you saw them. Oh, that's a terrible thing, but no, some English band that we hear all the time, and it would just be a part of it. Was I guess that was ubiquitous, that sound,
Yeah.
but it just seemed because it was being shoved down. We've talked about this before. It was being shoved down the throat. I had a real reaction to it in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
Overreaction, probably.
I kind of expect. In fact, when I was going through songs to give you, and I was thinking about this one, and the chorus kicked in, and I heard just for the first time in a while ish that time. I was like, John, that's fucking John's gonna. I know that's gonna rub John the wrong way because we've talked about that delivery before.
Yeah.
But the slide guitar and these interesting
Yeah, definitely.
in there, it's different. So
Yeah.
I rolled the dice on it, and I'm not blown over or surprised at all by your the way you ingested this song in the least. So, Stone Temple Pilots, commonly abbreviated as STP, is an American rock band formed in San Diego, California in 1989. They originally consisted of lead vocalist Scott Weiland, guitarist Dean DeLeo, bass Robert DeLeo, and drummer Eric Kretz. The band's lineup remained unchanged from its formation until the firing of Weiland in February of 2013. Vocalist Chester Bennington of Linkin Park joined the band in May of 2013, but left amicably before his death in November of 2015. In 20, it's kind of a sad run because Weiland would pass away in 2015, found dead of a drug overdose on a tour bus in, I think, Minnesota. And because he was so drug addled and had all these health issues and was kind of like mercurial and unpredictable, they had to part ways with him, and they brought in Chester. Little did they know that their former lead singer and their new lead singer would be both dead within a couple of years of all of that transpiring. So pretty crazy stuff.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's safer to be a Spinal Tap drummer. I mean,
I know,
Jesus.
right, seriously. In 2016, STP launched an online audition for a new lead vocalist, and Jeff Gutt was announced as STP's new lead singer in November on November 14th, 2017. And from what I understand, he's in good health and still with us. So let's hope, fate doesn't
Fingers
strike a
crossed.
third time. After forming under the name Mighty Joe Young, the band signed with Atlantic Records and changed its name to Stone Temple Pilots. Their debut album, Core, released in 1992, was a major commercial hit, and STP went on to become one of the most successful bands of that decade, the 90s, selling more than 18 million albums in the United States and 40 million worldwide. So I guess that kind of, I mean, maybe not a huge hit in England, but somewhere other than here, they were pushing product. STP released 4 more studio albums: Purple, Tiny Music, Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop, Shangri-La Di Da, all before separating, and obviously Cores was their first studio album that they released. The band's members partook in various projects, most notably Velvet Revolver, which would be Weiland's project after Stone Temple Pilots, and Army of Anyone. STP eventually reconvened in 2008 for a reunion tour and released their self-titled 6th album with Scott Weiland in 2010. After firing Weiland in 2013, the band recruited the aforementioned Chester Bennington, who would tour as their lead vocalist up until his departure in 2015. The band's only material with Bennington was a 2013 EP, High Rise. STP has since released 2 albums with Gutt on vocals, its second self-titled album in 2018, and an 8th studio album, Perdida, in 2020. While initially rising to fame as part of the grunge movement in the early 90s, further releases from the band explored a variety of styles, including psychedelic rock, bossa nova, and classic rock. STP's evolution throughout the 1990s and early 2000s involved periods of commercial highs and lows, brought about in part by Weiland's well-publicized struggles with drug addiction. And I was going and seeing these guys in concert at the time, and he was just skinny as a wraith, barely keeping it together. I went and saw him one time, and it must have been an hour plus before they actually, like an hour beyond when they were supposed to go on stage, because of dilemmas with him on the bus and getting him off the bus. And I don't know, police may have been involved. It was just always a shit show with Weiland, as talented as he was. And he really, really was. In 1985, Scott Weiland and his friend guitarist Corey Hickok and drummer David Allen first encountered Robert DeLeo playing live at various gigs, deciding to track him down after witnessing his shows. Weiland, DeLeo, Hickok, and Allen would eventually form a band called Swing, but Allen left after a few years. The remaining members saw drummer Eric Kretz play in a Long Beach club and convinced him to join the band. Guitarist Corey Hickok eventually left the band in 1989. In need of a replacement and auditioning many guitarists, Robert suggested his older brother, Dean. At the time, Dean was a successful businessman who had left behind his previous musical career, but still played guitar as a hobby. The band managed to convince Dean to play for Swing, completing the original STP lineup. Shortly afterwards, the band changed its name to Mighty Joe Young. They recorded a demo around 1990. And the Mighty Joe Young demo features tracks that would go on to be re-recorded for the band's first studio album, as well as some musical styles that would not be featured on any of the STP studio albums, such as funk and even yodeling. Mighty Joe Young played several gigs in the San Diego area, building up a fan base. Their first show was supporting Henry Rollins at Whiskey A Go-Go in West Hollywood. The group then began. I know you're not a big Henry Rollins fan, right? That's why the disappointed look downward and away. The group then began to work on their debut album. During the recording, they received a call from their lawyer, who informed them that there was a blues man who already had claimed the name Mighty Joe Young, which, I mean, that checks out. I wouldn't even need to see the paperwork on that. Inspired by the STP motor oil stickers that had been that the band members were fans of in their youth, various ideas for the initials STP were shared by the band before they settled on the name Stone Temple Pilots. Stone Temple Pilots continued developing their fan base in San Diego clubs, and in 1992 signed with Atlantic Records. Their first studio album, Core, was released on September 29th, 1992, and peaked at number 3 on the Billboard albums charts. Core was a big success, producing hits Sex Type Thing, Plush, Creep, and Wicked Garden. While the album was a major commercial success, some of the in the music press criticized the band as grunge imitators. The same year, Scott Weiland and Dean DeLeo played an acoustic version of Plush on the MTV show Headbangers Ball. This is considered one of Weiland's greatest vocal performances. Despite negative reviews from some critics, Stone Temple Pilots continued to gain fans and toured, opening for bands like Rage Against the Machine and Megadeth. 1993 brought continued success on the road when the band headlining a 2.5 month American tour. The same year, the band filmed an episode of MTV Unplugged, where they debuted the song Big Empty. In a January 1994 Rolling Stone poll, the band was simultaneously voted Best New Band by Rolling Stone readers and Worst New Band by the magazine's music critics. That's all dynamic, right? The following month, the group won Favorite Pop, Rock, and New Artist and Heavy Metal Hard Rock New Artist at the American Music Awards. In March of 94, the group won a Grammy Award for Best Hard Rock Performance for their song Plush. In spring of 94, Stone Temple Pilots returned to the studio to work on their second album, Purple. It was completed in less than a month and released on June 7, 1994. The album, building on the foundation laid by the band's debut album, Core, which was a major commercial success, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with 252,000 copies sold in the first week. It remained at the top of the charts for 3 weeks, and by October, just 4 months after its release, Purple had sold 3 million copies. Eventually, it would go on to sell over 6 million copies. It spawned a number of successful singles. Vaseline, Interstate Love Song, both topped the mainstream rock charts and reached number 2 on the modern rock tracks chart, while Big Empty also featured the top 10 of both those charts. The latter was also being featured on the soundtrack for the film The Crow. So the song was part of the Crow soundtrack when it came out. The song reached number 3 and number 7 on the Billboard mainstream rock tracks and modern rock tracks charts, respectively. And Big Empty won the MTV Movie Award for Best Song Featured in a Movie in 1995. While Purple features elements of grunge like its predecessor, Core, the album displays the band developing a sound influenced by other genres, such as psychedelic rock, evident in Loungefly and Silvergun Superman. The country vibes of Interstate Love Song and the blues rock elements of Big Empty. The album received generally positive reviews, with AllMusic critic Stephen Thomas Erlewine, and God, he is like everywhere whenever I go to anything AllMusic. He wrote that it was a quantum leap over their debut, showcasing a band hitting its stride. The aforementioned AllMusic and the Encyclopedia of Popular Music both scored the album 4 out of 5, while the Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal gave it a 9 out of 10 stars, which is interesting because I don't consider this metal at all. In 2005, Purple was ranked number 438 in Rock Hard Magazine's book of the 500 greatest rock and metal albums of all time. In 2006, the album was ranked number 73 on Guitar World Magazine's list of the 100 greatest guitar albums of all time. In May of 2014, Loudwire placed Purple at number 6 on its 10 best hard rock albums of 1994 list. July 2014, Guitar World ranked Purple as number 24 in their super unknown 50 iconic albums that defined 1994 list. In 2019, Rolling Stone ranked the album number 24 on its list of the 50 greatest grunge albums. In 2022, Pitchfork named Purple one of the 25 best grunge albums of the 90s. So, let's get in. Oh, go ahead.
Before you do, it's just really interesting, because I was thinking this during the song. I was wondering how this song would sound if it's, I said that one of my problems with Pearl Jam and others as well is it's kind of dressed up in this temporary cloak of grungeness, which helped them expand. And it sounds like they then developed their sound, Stone Temple Pilots, which is, very, very wise because, like all things, there's a short shelf life, isn't there? Um,
Yes.
and for all we know, I mean, they probably didn't want to be labeled as grunge. It may not even been their choice, and it might have been the record label that's very effective way of marketing for that particular time, hitting the crest of that wave. But I was thinking, as the song went on, how if you just change some of the sound, the effects of the guitars, whatever, this could be a hard rock stroke metal song or a blues song
Yeah. Yeah.
quite easily.
Yeah.
It's
Kind of
interesting, isn't it?
towing that line that was first towed by Ozzy and the boys on those first three Sabbath albums, where they're kind of like just a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit this way or a little bit the other way. It could become a blues album or it could become a full blown metal album. Yeah, you're right. There's a little bit of that going on. It just seems to me like I thought it was interesting that this periodical, who are usually the writers for those kind of periodicals are very gatekeepery about the
Yes, they are.
so
But
for them
suddenly,
to welcome
some
this
bands, yeah.
into
Some
metal.
bands do, yeah, they do. And they do that in punk as well. They'll
Yeah,
take some bands on and they claim them as theirs, and you're thinking that's not punk, that's not metal, but
yeah.
they do,
Well,
don't
you
they?
would never
But
do it
others, they're
with this
very,
other band, but you're doing it with
yeah,
these guys, and why is that? Yeah, you're absolutely
very
right.
dismissive of other ones. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
weird, isn't it? This old
it
cliquey genre thing, anyway. But there you go.
is.
Sorry, the lyrics.
Oh, the lyrics. So, driving faster in my car, fallen farther from just what we are. Smoke a cigarette and lie some more. These conversations kill. Fallen faster in my car. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to take a ride. It leaves today. No conversation. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to wait too long. To wait too long. To wait too long. Too much walking. Shoes worn thin. Too much tripping and my soul's worn thin. Time to catch a ride. It leaves today. Her name is what it means. Too much walking, shoes worn thin. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to take a ride. It leaves today. No conversation. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to wait too long. To wait too long. To wait too long. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. Instrumental break. Your man running up with the lead guitar, late as always. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to take a ride. It leaves today. No conversation. Time to take her home. Her dizzy head is conscience laden. Time to wait too long. To wait too long. To wait too long. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. Conversations kill. So the aforementioned Stephen Thomas Erlewine, who I referenced earlier, wrote that Big Empty is a perfect encapsulation of mainstream alienation, and he praised it as a highlight on the album Purple. So my guess is maybe I don't know who the she is, to be honest with you, and I don't know if he's personifying something or if this is an
Yeah,
actual.
yeah. So I was thinking.
Yeah, but it is an interesting song, and the even the line itself, just conversations kill, is very
Yeah.
evocative. Like, what conversations are we talking about? I mean, you cited jokingly, some examples, but it is ponderous what this means, what how exactly it ties into.
And yeah, and what does kill mean? You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
not necessarily execute, but sort of the death of something, you know.
yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, it seems to me the imagery there of this sort of late night smoking, there's references to tripping and this sort of consciousness and this female. I'm picturing an open top car. I don't know why, but I am. Um, it's a personification of something, I think, whether it's his guilt, remorse, something like that, because he's obviously, I think he's recognizing it's probably time to change or time to do things to something different, but whether he
Yeah,
does or not is another matter.
yeah, and even the
That's
driving faster in my car is like living recklessly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know what I
It's
mean?
quite a
And
druggy sort of addict sort
yeah,
of song, isn't it?
falling farther from just what we are, smoke a cigarette and lie some more. Like you're
Yeah.
falling farther from who you were as a sober person, smoke a cigarette and lie about how it's not the case or how you're gonna right the ship or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely some drug stuff in there for sure. Less Jesus and vampire, I think. As far as
Or DEA.
yeah, sure, exactly. But yes, thank you so much for giving this a listen, John. Thank you for looking past that early '90s throaty yeah that was going on in the choruses. Even though I still think it tripped you up a bit, which is it's understandable. You know, we all have our idiosyncrasies and isms. So thanks so much for giving a listen, guys out there in the listening audience. Please let us know what you thought of this track, "Big Empty" by Stone Temple Pilots. There's some other stuff by them that we should check out here on the channel, what your thoughts were of them when they came out, or what you're thinking of them now, if it's your first time listening to them. Whatever, just drop it down in the comments field below. We really do appreciate it. Also, like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. It really does help us over here at the channel, and we really do appreciate it. And hopefully, John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.